It's, I don't know what the forecast is for the rest of today, but a little on the gloomy side. Not cool. I thought Montana was supposed to be maybe not sunshine and rainbows, but at least kind of sunshine. But I guess that's California. But no, playing for today with arms. I kind of scouted out a sort of further town gym last night. Not huge, but dense. The equipment is, well, let's just say it's what I'd want to see in a space that size, which some people might see as a negative. A lot of guys are going to look at let's say they're on a family trip or whatever, and there's these many gyms around. Planet Fitness, unless you're in like a major city, usually sucks because what happens is they close at like 6 o'clock. Like every time I've ever been to anywhere kind of coastal, where it's not like a Miami or like an LA. They're nuts. The hours are insane. Like they really chop them. So Planet Fitness is usually out if you're traveling. But let's say the one gym you do find, you're basically playing the lottery. Especially if you find somewhere that isn't a corporate. What was the word? Corporate, like franchised sort of deal. Because then either you get something like that and it's like whatever. But I've gone places on different sort of trips where I've returned to the same place because the gym that was there that I used on the first trip was so cool, it made the whole destination a bit more appealing. Like that's why I go up to Michigan a couple times. My family went back to South Carolina once. Like I went when I was like maybe 16. And I've got pictures of myself in this old powerhouse. And I'm like, man, it'd be awesome to come back here later now that I'm bigger. The problem was that, I don't know exactly the cause, but in between when I went and when I returned again, COVID happened. And I think COVID shut that gym down, which really sucks. Because that was an awesome place. It was like still kind of new and like fancy looking and clean, but had a grunge from just the equipment and the people in there. It was just really cool. But the second time around, me and Mark ended up going to a different gym that ended up being a little bit cooler. I don't remember exactly what it was called, but it was straight out of the 2000s. Nothing had been touched. Prime time real estate, that's for sure. Right. So this one's a little on the smaller side. Dumbbells up to maybe 60, some cables, some preacher curl. But lucky for me, I've got arms today, so I don't need much. Like as often as I say, I can get a good arm day in with just dumbbells and a cable stack. Well, guess what? That's today. Today is that day. And I guess we'll just have to see how it looks once we actually get in there. But I've got some more questions I'll get into on the way back. But one that I just scanned was, is meal prep necessary? Is meal prep necessary for actually building mass? And, well, define meal prep, right? Do I think you need a fridge full of 10 prepped, 50 grams of protein, 60 gram carb, 10 gram fat meals? No, I don't think so. My approach with the dieting has always been a bit more flexible on that end, in the sense that if I have to prep meals and for a time when I don't have any food accessible, like when I was in school, I'd prep some meals like that, where it's just I'd make 2 or 3 at a time because I knew I was going to be gone for like a 4-hour chunk for this class and this class. If you're really trying to bulk up, you can't go 4 hours without eating. That's gonna push it. I don't think you have to do 2 hours every meal, but if you ever have a long gap of time, really anything longer than 3 hours where you don't have access to like your kitchen or whatever, or you didn't pack a meal for lunch, well then that's when you bring something. You gotta have something with you at all times. Keep that thing on you, because if you get behind, then you're screwed, right? Because for me to say like what has to be in place for a guy to grow, right, there's 2 things. Actually, well, there's a bunch of things. Let's just get it. Obviously, he's got to be sleeping a decent amount. I'm not saying you need 8 hours every day or you won't grow, but that'd be ideal. You should be getting a decent amount of fluids. Like honestly, I don't care how, I don't know. I feel pretty good if I get a gallon a day. That's about right. So adjust accordingly to how heavy you are. But really just drink more. You almost can't drink enough, and having proper fluid just flow, getting everything moving, I feel better. And I'm not going to get an exertion headache in the gym because I've got proper electrolyte balance and I'm actually fully hydrated. But in the simpler facet of calories, the guy has to eat at the end of every day, on average, at least a few hundred calories above maintenance. So however that has to add up, that factor or that box has to be checked off. So let's say, you had a big day. Let's say one guy says, "Oh, I'm getting real today. I'm getting serious. I'm doing it. I'm bulking." And he has one day and he says, and he just eats 5,000 calories. And he says, "Holy crap, I ate a lot." And then the next day comes around, he's like, "Hey, I'm not really that hungry." And then a couple more days go, and then he eats another 5,000. So he's like, "Oh, I had a couple days where I ate a ton." But if you average it out across the whole week, and the guy's only eating in maintenance, well, then he's not going to grow, right? Beyond, main gaining, where the muscle growth is just kind of a direct response to just the training, right? You don't have to leverage somebody's diet in the beginning of working out, because the training itself, you're so prone to stimulus, you're going to start putting on some size. Even you might even use internal energy source from your body fat to help facilitate that. But that's only for like a small window. You're not going to be doing that for long. Right? That's kind of what we call the newbie gains phase, which is not meant to be like derogatory, like newbie, but it's just a fact, man. You're going to put you're completely primed to grow muscle right in the beginning. So if you're, let's say at this position, which I think a lot of people are trapped in. Let's say you're 180. Maybe 15% body fat. You get some bicep veins when you're pumped up, but you don't have like super clearly defined abs. That's usually what I would call like a 15% range. And people get stuck here. It's like that island from what's it called? Is it just the story of Odysseus? Well, whatever. But it's like this island from this old Greek mythology story where you just basically, the guy stays there forever. He's trapped there. He can't. And he's like, this isn't actually that bad. A lot of people get stuck at 180 or 190 or something along those lines, and they got that big just from working out and training, but they haven't really leveraged their calorie intake much. So they're leaving gains on the table. They just got to take that step into the next. I don't want to say the next level, but the next phase of things. So if you're that guy, not only do you have to say like, okay, I've got to do this, and this if I want to bulk up. There's also a question to ask before that, and it's like, do I want to bulk up? Because then you're kind of given two choices, which ends up resulting typically in a third choice, which is do nothing, between, okay, should I bulk up or should I cut down? And they both require more effort than maintaining, so it's very safe to just stay right here. It's very safe to do nothing. But if you do that for too long, well, shit, man, you're just killing time. That sucks. So how I look at it is, I guess, just flip a coin. Flip a coin. Ask someone what they think. Just whatever. It doesn't really matter which one you would do. Maybe cut down for a few months, then bulk up for a few months, or do vice versa. Bulk up for a few months and then cut down for a few months. Whatever. But in either case, once you've reached plateauedness and you're not actually tracking your macros and your calories and your protein and everything, we know the answer, right? We kind of already know the answer, what has to change, and that's implementing that kind of calorie effort, tracking everything, counting everything. I know it sucks, but that's kind of why it works, the fact that it takes effort. If it was super easy to track your calories, well, then it probably wouldn't do that much for you because it'd be super easy, right? It's easy to tie your shoes. What does that do for you? If you kind of get how I'm trying to say that. So that's kind of my perspective. And once you get into it, it takes a few weeks. You get a macro tracker on your phone, and you just keep notes on a piece of paper or something. And every time you eat, just look at the back measure it out. Okay, I had a Luna bar, 8 grams of protein, 25 grams of carbs, and something of fat, or whatever. Or you had a Cliff Bar, or you had a freaking Slim Jim. Whatever the food is, honestly, that's not the point. If you can track everything and kind of count it, and then you start to get a grip of like, oh shit, this one little tiny thing has 900 calories. Maybe I shouldn't eat that, And if you can think about things that way, you're ahead of the game, because a lot of people don't. I'd say 80% of at least American characters, they're not even thinking about food like calories. It's like, oh, I like this food. Like, we get the gist. If you eat a bunch of junk food, you're going to get fat. But like, you're not looking at the numbers of things, right? It's like you don't know anything about your car. I'm not a car guy, but like I can imagine, like, okay, it's been a couple thousand miles. I pull out my thing. I'm low on oil. I should put more oil in, right? If you know what to look for, well, then you're not going to get totally sleazed if you go to an auto shop and they say you've got a million problems and they want to overcharge you, right? Because you know what the situation is supposed to look like, so you're not going to get hit with anything unexpected. That's a little bit of a tangent, but if all someone's understanding of food is like bread makes you fat, only bodybuilders eat a bunch of protein, it's not good for you. Like, from the perspective of that kind of gimmicky approach with food, there is no winning. There is no approach where they can win, because they just don't know how to play the game. Someone who knows how to play chess will always beat someone who doesn't. And obviously, that changes once they both know a little bit. Someone could know a little and they're still going to get whooped by somebody who actually understands the rules. So I guess that's what I'm really trying to say. The game isn't changing, right? The amount of food you eat will dictate if you gain muscle, gain fat, lose muscle, lose fat. Usually you just want to lose fat and maintain the muscle. That's the whole point of like a proper diet. But the rules are the rules. So if you can learn the rules and know how to play the game, well, then guess what, man? At least relative to the majority population, you're going to win, and then they're going to be twiddling their thumbs thinking, like listening to the FDA say that eggs with the yolks are bad and that you should only be eating a soy-based vegetarian diet, right? So that's my thought on the matter there. I don't have anything against a legit vegetarian, because if they know how to play the game, well, then guess what? He's going to be good too, because he's going to get his protein from at least the most ideal sources he can, just different kind of beans, nuts, and whatever. Like, I'm not saying that can't be done. I'm not anti-vegetarian like that. I'm just trying to say, there's people who can get it. I usually like saying with dieting, once you can actually track your macros, you just start to see food in a different way. It's not unlike getting unplugged and you can freaking see the Matrix. Obviously, it's not as high stakes as that, but that's kind of how it plays out. And some people don't want to do that. They have an emotional connection with food, and this is an argument against wanting to, learn about it and track it. It's I don't want to look at food as numbers, man. I want to look at mac and cheese because this reminds me of when I was a kid, and it feels really good. And it's hard to argue with that, right? I understand the logic of not wanting to do it. It does take effort. So some people aren't interested, right? But if you're interested in what lies beyond being able to intervene with your diet and get the physical results afterward, well, then really you've got no choice, right? You might think you have a choice of like, oh, should I do it? Should I not do it? But you got no choice, because what'll happen is either two situations. You do it and then you realize, holy shit, I haven't made this many gains for months, or I haven't seen that ab or like that part of my quad for years. Or you're gonna wait, not do it, fast forward enough time, and now you're a completely different guy because a certain amount of time has passed, and you're like, man, I wish I did it. I wish I did it when I had more time. I wish I did it when I was younger. I wish I did it when I just had more energy for it. Right? And that's a completely separate game, a game of time. But that's a little bit too deep for me to get into before this arm day. And that's something I'd want to listen to someone else about. I still gotta get some more intel just from other more experienced characters. But no, plan for arms, get as pumped as possible, even though the equipment is a little bit more scarce, but that's not going to stop me. If this gym had one dumbbell and that was it, and nothing else, it's just a room with a dumbbell, I'd still be able to get a good arm pump. So if it's got a whole set of machines and different cables, then I'm totally good. So I think nothing else to say. Let's just get started. Hard to beat the 70s, that's for sure. 80s would be too much. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right, let's do all curls, then all push downs. Usually, I'd say you gotta try it before you buy it, but we'll go backwards today. Okay. Well, the first reps were clean. Oh, goodness. Let's move on. I think 2 of those is good. Let's pick something else. Heavy dumbbell curls into lighter squeezing preachers. Couldn't think of a better combination, or at least a better progression of movements. All right. All right. Oh, crap. Oh, let's lose the 10s. Let's lose the 10s. 25 and easy bar will be enough. That was good, though. Ooh. So heavy dumbbell curls, lighter preacher curls. Now let's do some bicep bias pull downs, and then probably finish. I'll finish with something. I'm not totally sure what, but these are good. These are slept on, and they're a little tricky, but the gist is I'm thinking not pull with my elbows, right? That would be very back focused. I want my shoulder to stay in the exact same position the whole time and only think about bending at my bicep. So instead of here, it's here, you know? So it's just a, you know, if you can feel it, it is very bicep focused, but it's a little tricky. Okay. All right. One more, and then we'll get the bicep finisher. Okay. All right. I think one more cable curl and we can call it there for buys. All right. Yeah, let's do a push down. Yeah, good set. All right, sweet. Yeah, didn't even have to freaking move angles. So something about the rope today is just not clicking. I think the regular push down will be a little bit of a better start. So nothing wild. The stack's not even that heavy, but I'll make it heavy by really squeezing at the bottom of every rep. And then, you know, if I really pumped them out, maybe I could get 30, but going slower with a good squeeze, that might put this more at like a 15. Gonna pick a different song though. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. 2. Yeah. Okay. All right. One more of those. Oh my God, that feels sweet. Let's move on, but I might come back to this as the finisher. All right, not much different, but for this one, let's just grab each cable individually. So, not so crazy as like the 45-degree, or I guess 90-degree cross cable extension, but there's still a little bit of outward angle. So it's not just a push down, I'm also pulling out, if you follow me. And that movement of going from like here and back, that's what lets me feel a ton of long head, which is like the damn prime rib of your tricep. Shit, I think one more of those and that's gonna be it. You know, I'll see how it feels once I do it, but yeah, that's a quick one. Okay. Oh, all right. Yeah, not a lot of lifters in there, that's for sure. This is certainly a small town, so that's to be expected. But honestly, that was good. I thought I was gonna have to make a little bit of a further drive tomorrow and hit legs at like an anytime somewhere, but they've got such a, like the pieces that they have over there are very dense in terms of like just kind of covering the full body. I'm talking they got adductor, leg curl, leg extension combo, seated, but honestly, you give me a leg extension and a leg curl, I'm gonna get a crazy quad pump. Squat rack, leg press, I think I'll be good. So I think legs will just be, legs are gonna be freaking all right. But we'll see. You know, that's a different day, different guy, different world, and we'll see what happens. But no, that was a really good arm day too. Like not, you know, nothing wild. Those got some heavy curls in, so I checked the box of a heavy set, checked the box of a squeezing set with those preachers, and then I guess still an extra squeezing set with those bicep bias pull downs. And what did I finish with? Was that it? No, I did some cable. Those, and those last cable curls that I did, those didn't really click. Honestly, I think I was done at that 6 set mark after that last set of bicep biased pull downs, which, you know, I think it's a tricky thing to call. You know, that's a hard thing to say specifically. Okay, when did I do enough? You know, and I think I've developed a bit of a sense, at least for myself, based on how all my workouts feel, and like, okay, how hard did I do all these sets? Like, you know, there's a point where you're doing sets of curls or whatever, and you kind of, something about the curl, it just loses momentum. You're not feeling it the same. You kind of, it's like you've already done it. Now you're beating a dead horse, you know? So what I want to do, or what I'm kind of imagining that I want to do, is maximize my workload and stimulus and squeezing and burning and, you know, just how pumped up and, I don't want to say fatigued, but like worked I can get whatever muscle group I'm hitting before that feeling, you know? So set number 1, dumbbell curls, not completely warmed up. Like, I'm warm, but I'm not like, you know, there's warm like you're warmed up from cables, and then there's warm when you're doing working sets back to back, right? So that first set, still a little cold, getting into it. By the second set, all right, I'm moving. You know, the engine is up to temp. Keep going, right? It's like, hey, you can't let a crazy ass supercar or like a drag car idle because it's generating so much heat. It just has to move, you know. But you get to a point where it's just, you're not really doing any effective work anymore, or at least that's kind of my understanding of the matter. So wherever that number is, I want to time it just right so that every set adds to the quality of the workout and doesn't detract from it, you know. And I don't know the perfect answer, but I can imagine where it might lie. Because let's just take chest for example. Let's say you sit down on a converging cable press. It's like, have you ever seen the free motion machine? I did it when I did chest at Gold's Gym a while ago. It's just a seated kind of machine, a little bit declined. The cable stack is right in front of you, and then you reach to your sides and you grab the cables, and you're doing presses like this. You know, honestly, I think that's probably one of the most complete chest movements that there is, because you're getting a pressing stretch, but also a fly-based squeeze at the top. Like, it's a very good movement. If I could pick only one for chest ever, it would probably be something like that, because I can do a heavy one that's more like a press, and I can do a light one that's much more squeeze focused, like a fly, that sort of deal, you know. But that's what I would call a very complete movement. If I only had access to that, I could get a really good chest pump, and I think most people would probably agree with that. You know, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but just follow me here. So you pick a weight. Let's say every set is the same. Moderate, you can do about 15 reps, and then you're at failure. You're only doing partials, and then you get a racket. You huff and puff, and you get recovered, and then you do another one. After 1, I think you're still on your way to wherever that sweet spot of the sets is, right? You're still working up to it. You're not there yet. The workout's not done. You know, if you just did 1, I think you're leaving some stimulus on the table, you know, in terms of just, you know, pump, fatigue, workload, whatever, time under tension, however you want to say it. I don't think 1's enough. I think if you do 2, that's better than 1. Like 2 pretty hard ass sets, just about right at failure. You really brought it. Okay, 2's good. All right, let's do another one. 3. All right, you're getting close now. You're feeling pumped. You're doing little like pec pops while you're sitting, like, okay, yeah, I'm getting full. You do 4, you do 5, and I think around that 6 mark, you're gonna start to feel like, okay, I mean, I'm fully pumped. All right, let's keep going. 7, 8, and where is the number where instead of increasing progress, you now start to plateau, probably stay at this same level of effectiveness. You know, I don't think doing 12 will suddenly make the workout, you know, much worse than 10. So I think the curve looks like this. 0 is here at 0, and then 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, and then I think it's leveling off somewhere around that 6 to 12 mark. Somewhere in there, I think, is the peak effectiveness. Now, these are hard, heavy sets, just about to failure. You gradually go lighter because you're getting weaker. So this isn't like pump work or reps in reserve. I'm saying this is just taking a set to failure, resting, and then doing it again. So that's the constraint of this workout. So I think around that 6 to 12 mark is probably the peak effectiveness. And after that, I think it will begin to trail off. And then, obviously, I don't think you're going to have a massive chest if every day you only did like, well, I guess, is that even a valid take either? If every day somebody sat on a chest press and did 100 sets, his chest would probably be bigger than a regular dude. But is that ideal, right? Is that what we're really aiming for, you know? So I think that's the sweet spot. And it'll change day by day based on how recovered you were. Maybe just something clicked. Maybe your potassium electrolyte balance today was just awesome. So you're really getting like peak contractions. You know, you got some TikTok edits going, you're getting excited, you're extra excited, you're getting extra dopaminergic, whatever. And you just bring it extra hard on all those sets. Well, then maybe you end up doing less than normal because you really brought it on all of them. Or maybe you end up doing more because now you're extra like invigorated for the workout and you can actually feel like you handled more and then keep going. So you know, there's just so many ways to explain it that apart from if we get to the point where we can really have like systematic, accurate, complete understanding of like what is exactly perfect, which we do not have. Like, ask any kind of physiological kinesiology kind of guy, you know, they'll say like, okay, this works for muscle growth, this adds, there's no one thing, right? So it's not so simple as that. That's like saying there's only one method to become, you know, an expert photorealistic painter. There's only one method to become a top 0.1% skill guitar player, either classical or more shredding, tapping. Like, it's just not how it is, you know? So I think to search for that, the idea that you're trying to, you know, remove the emotional, not emotional, but just like the active, just like, you know, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Not animalistic, but just like the excitement about it isn't awesome, you know? So the fact that it's not something I can totally say for sure tells me, okay, what do I know for sure is going to help? What do I know for sure is going to get me better results in the gym? Going hard, all right. Going a lot, and by a lot I mean just consistently. You're not taking off days when you don't need them. Like, you actually work out to your schedule, whatever that may be, and you're not as punk about it and you really do it. Okay, so you go hard, you go a lot, you're open to new ideas, so you're always trying to learn and you want to be a little bit better, you know, or just smarter, or just more skilled with mind-muscle connection with everything over time. All right, that's awesome too. So that's 3 things. And you get your diet in check, like we were going to talk about on the way to the gym today. Well, guess what? The people who do that, the people who bring it, and they bring it on the regular, that works, right? That works for sure. So it's something where I think it's probably a good ratio of 70%, maybe even 80% consistency and effort, and then 20%, you know, the real specifics of things, at least when it comes to the training. Obviously, your calories, your ability to eat is going to affect how big you can get, or, you know, if you're going to grow or diet down. But when we're just talking training, I really do think that that's the spread, right? There's a direct correlation between the top level dogs who just go hard and go a lot. Then there is a correlation between, you know, who is making the best progress, or the best progress for them, simply because they're doing things differently, you know? So that's not to say that that's not a part of the equation, but it's not the biggest part, right? That's what I want to kind of get behind. So when I get excited about watching someone work out, or like looking up to someone who had a crazy journey, it's the guys who bring it. You know, I'm not going to watch a video of someone explain the perfect activation of like a dumbbell curl and get super excited about my training. I'm going to be excited about the guy doing the training and bringing it and going hard. That's what gets me going, you know? So beyond that, I think it's kind of, that's the pay to play. You pay with your effort, and then you get to kind of play with the exacts of what you end up doing, you know? And I think that's a reasonable way to look at it, for sure. So if that's, but So on the opposite side of that spectrum, if you are someone who really like gets behind the idea of knowing that everything is specifically the most like productive or has the highest conversion rate of, you know, motor unit recruitment, or, you know, whatever your way of thinking about it is, well, then that's sick too, because that's getting you hyped up and motivated. I would never tell someone who is really into that and they use it and it fuels their excitement for the gym not to do it, because it works. You know, that's the preferential side of things. So you're looking at somebody eating vanilla when you're eating chocolate, and you're saying, what a fucking loser, or what a freaking loser. Sorry about that. He's eating vanilla. You ever hear of hater mentality? You know, that's not awesome. Now, you know, if you watch somebody doing something a bit silly in the gym, like if you look up like a gym cringe compilation, that you can kind of be a hater on that a little bit. Or if people cause a ruckus for no reason, that's different. That's just being an asshole, you know. But take with that what you will, right? Going into 2026, I want to see, well, I don't know how many things, but I want to see these things. I want to see excitement for the gym. I want to see consistency with the gym. And maybe I want to see people in the gym who I have not seen for a while stick, right? We're getting close to New Year's. We're getting close to that influx of memberships, influx of populace. So if you're in a major city and your gym is like the gym there, get ready for it. You know, get ready for it. People are gonna be there. But do not be like, oh, why are there so many people in here? Blah, 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 blah. Because out of that group, right, out of that initial group of recruits, guess what? A couple of them are going to turn into scouts. A couple of them are going to turn into real-life killers, and maybe they're going to surpass you in gains and progress, and you're going to be the one asking them for tips. You know, so you can't hate on somebody who's trying to reach their potential, even if we all know a lot of people show up and then they leave, right? The ones who stay, the ones who I don't want to say weed themselves out, but the ones who, like, you know, stick their chest out and they're actually in there for real. And I don't mean like in an ego kind of way. I mean the ones who actually show up. And that's sweet. That's what we would describe as the next generation of lifters. And it's not an age thing, right? People are going to start working out at freaking 15 years old or at 40 years old, right? That's not the point. It's the fact that they're in there killing it. I'd rather be in a regular ass YMCA than Gold's Gym Venice if the people in that YMCA are bringing it like beasts, and I can tell, than if it was a day where, you know, maybe Gold's was dead and nobody was really getting after it, right? So that's all I got to say there. I'm going to go ahead and stop chit-chatting and enjoy the wilderness on my drive back and go get some breakfast, and then I'll see you for some legs tomorrow. So let's just see how that lift ends up.